this is Arunava Chaudhuri and you are on my YouTube channel Arunfoot. Today I want to once more talk about the situation between the All India Football Federation and Reliance owned FSDL and what are the options for the All India Football Federation in regard to moving forward, because there's certain things which are out in the public domain and people are talking about certain things, but do we really know what the talks are and how they're going? I don't think so. But for the AIFF, there are certain critical points in regard to extension of that contract, and we have to get back to the basics and discuss this. First of all, does the AIFF have alternatives to the Reliance-backed entity? And at the moment, one has to honestly say it's a big no. Shrachi Sports has come forward to broadcast the I-League, I-League 2, IWL, IW2, Santosh Trophy and Senior National Women's Championships. But the money that's being paid to the AIFF is minuscule compared to those 50 crores that Reliance has been guaranteeing since 2010. First fact, are there any other players interested in the football rights? Well, having now been in India for a few days, having spoken to a few people, not only here, but also while I was traveling inside and outside of India, people don't think that marketing rights of the AIFF, the commercial rights of the AIFF are worth at all, if at all, anything. And that is a big problem for the AIFF. So the AIFF needs to ensure a few things for its own future. First of all, we come to the money part. Those 50 crores for the AIFF is a key component of their overall budget. How can the AIFF survive without that money? Because then, I did a video a few days ago in regard to asking the question, how could the AIFF cut costs? How would the AIFF be able to run its setup? How would it be able to organize, run football, work on development? National teams are a huge cost to the AIFF. How can all of that be kept running? Very difficult question, very also tricky question in my opinion. That's the first question. If the money doesn't come, if Reliance puts a big zero in there at the moment and says, listen, you're going to be shared partner of certain profits, which do not exist at the moment, one has to be honest about that. How does that work? The second point is the Indian Super League, in my opinion. A lot of people seem to forget that Reliance is pumping money into the Indian Super League to organize this league. Not only them, the franchises are doing it, the broadcasters doing it. So that money which is coming into the system because of FSDL being there, that potentially could also be gone. Are we sure that if by any chance the Indian Super League ends, that the teams, the franchises which are there will all stick to Indian football? I've heard from someone who owns a club who clearly has said, I'd be actually happy if Reliance shuts down the Indian Super League. Someone has actually said that to me. And I know from other people who run I-League clubs or I-League 2 clubs that they would consider of pulling out of Indian football if Reliance pulls out and there is any chance of the ISL shutting down. So these are very tricky issues, very contentious issues, where we need to be honest and realistic enough to say, you know what, there are things that could happen which would harm Indian football in a much bigger way than if you just look on it from the top, from the outside. A lot of clubs, a lot of entities could just leave Indian football, because I know that a lot of people came into Indian football because they thought, listen, we're going to spend money in the first maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years, and after that, at least we are going to be breaking even, and then after that, maybe we could even make a little bit of money and that put back into the system. That has not happened since 1996 when the National Football League was started. That was the whole aim, to enable Indian club football to professionalize in such a way that the clubs become sustainable. The biggest failure of the last 29 years, as I said, since the NFL, I-League and the ISL has come along. And these things are interlinked. These things are very, very crucial. And therefore, the AIFF needs to find a solution. And I go back to something which I said last year, and a lot of people weren't bothered at the time. These negotiations are happening, in my opinion, way too late. They should have happened a lot earlier, because then you would have had 18 months or maybe even more to move to a better solution. It's very tricky. It's very, very tricky for the All India Football Federation. And let's see what the leadership can do. Because at the moment, it's one of the biggest problems that the AIFF faces at the moment. What do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree with me? Do you have a different viewpoint? Do you have something to add to this? As always, write it down in the comments below. And as always, like, share and subscribe Arunfoot here on YouTube. Visit my other social medias. Visit arunfoot.com. And I'll be back very soon. So Arunava Chaudhuri signing off. Bye for now.